He keeps running out.
Yeah, because he wants to escape, but he hears him.
He is.
No, Sean, don't kill him. Don't kill him.
He's out. Oh, God. Why did you go when we tried to open the door? This is horrible.
Oh, no.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
It's a very special podcast today because it is Dave's birthday podcast. Are you serious?
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yep. He just
and I was going to mention it. There's also a mouse in this room.
We got a mouse in the house, boys.
This is going to be the worst fucking podcast ever. I want to die.
I want you at home to timestamp every time you see it.
Oh, God.
Every time you see it run, you'll probably see it run behind Sean on the floor by the wall. Yep. Every time you see it, hit us with that timestamp down below.
And we've already peaked, and I think it might help a little bit with the stuff you do in audio-wise, but right now this is a very loud podcast.
Do we have it at the normal volumes?
It's at the normal volumes. Maybe the mouse fucked with the settings.
Maybe
I don't know. Oh, God.
He just peeked down
a
the
mouse.
I'm glad I put my bag in my car.
I can't not point him out. I'm sorry.
This is horrible. Let us know if you see the mouse. Anyways, if you want to help us get out of this room, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We'd appreciate it.
Or if you want to see us fight the mouse, Patreon.
No. If you want us to get the fuck out of here.
He keeps running out.
Yeah, because he wants to escape, but he hears him.
He is.
No, Sean, don't kill him. Don't kill him.
He's out. Oh, God. Why did you go when we tried to open the door? This is horrible.
Oh, no. Mouse in the house.
Anyways, today we're going to be talking about the Phoenix Suns, if they can make the playoffs. Then we're going to be talking about the Boston Celtics if they need to make another move. And then we're going to wrap it up with some Pelicans talk. And we're throwing Wet Boys in there as well. Ricky's got a new angle that he's going to take on Wet Boys each and every week. But let's jump into it. Phoenix Suns right now are 5-3. And it feels like each and every year to start off the season, we have this topic. Are the Suns for real? Are the Suns this good? We had it 2 years ago where we talked.
He's just staring. Oh my God! I can't stop. I'm just gonna stop talking. He keeps taking his head out from me. There he is again. He's just sitting there.
Oh, there he is.
Yep.
Oh, he's so cute.
Fat.
He's a little
He's
cutie.
a fat mouse.
Please go under the door. We're gonna let him go.
Oh,
He's
look
under the
at
camera
him.
right now. Oh no! He's right back.
Ew.
Yeah, he's got no way out.
He can fit under that doorway.
No, he can't.
Open the... Let's try to open the door again. There was a jump cut because, he was around in the room and present, and it was gross.
And Sean and Dave got all, scared.
It's disgusting. It is gross.
It's a mouse.
I don't care.
It's not going to come near us.
I want it dead.
It's not going to come near us.
You know what shouldn't be in a room that's made of podcasting? A fucking mouse.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Timestamp
so
wherever it
fast.
is, and also come up with a name for the mouse. We need to come up with a name.
No.
I don't know if it's a him or a he, or a him
her.
or a she, or could be gender neutral. But give us a name for it.
It's murder. It's dead. It's muerte.
This will be the second
Muerte
podcast
is
where
the
we're
name.
going to have the guest mouse on.
The first time we didn't know.
Yeah,
Someone
that
in
was
the
a
comment section
surprise
told us.
One, we don't want him in here. And
No.
two, he's freeloading our podcast because technically you have to pay $10 to be on a podcast.
But he's not contributing.
I would say
Exactly. So he's a
the 20
freeloader.
minutes we've been talking about this mouse has been contributing. Give him a lot of credit.
People don't even think this is an NBA podcast anymore. It's just a mouse podcast. Anyways, let's jump
What's
into
your
the Suns.
favorite type of mouse?
Dead mouse. Let's go into the Phoenix Suns. 5-3
The artist.
so far. It feels like we've talked about them every single year. Like, what are the expectations? I remember the one year they were hitting threes. I think it was 2 years ago, Dave. You and I were talking about, if they're real or not. That was crazy. And then I think last year we talked about them earlier in the season because of Igor as well.
Yeah.
So far they're 5-3. Had a big win against Philadelphia, which we streamed on our Patreon Discord. We had the live watch party
along,
with them. Yeah, watch along. They did lose to Miami on Thursday, but so far this has been a pretty impressive 8 games for the Phoenix Suns. What have you noticed has been like the biggest reason that this jump has happened for the Phoenix Suns?
Ball movement has been key for this team. Offensively, last year we saw the struggles. Igor was trying to run an offense that was predicated around having a pass-first point guard, and he didn't have a point guard out there. This year, they've traded out a lot of pieces on this roster, and you have a lot of really willing passers. So even though you add Ricky Rubio as that centerpiece to make sure the offense moves, every guy on the floor is happy to pass the ball. When guys like Saric are out there, he's moving the ball. He can run at the top of the key and distribute down low to Baines. Baines can kick out. You have all the right pieces, and no one's playing selfishly. I think that's the biggest thing I've seen out of this team. The other piece is actually defense, which I know a lot of people want to give the Suns shit about defense because of Devin Booker, but they've done a nice job surrounding him with really good defenders, or at least above average defenders in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird saying that when you have like Aaron Baines out there, who's pretty at least tenacious, but I don't know if he's like one of the best defenders. Yeah. Frank Kaminsky's out there, and like he's not a good defender at all. But you talk about like Javon Carter, Kelly Oubre, Mikal Bridges. Obviously, those guys have been playing great defense, and they're all doing this without DeAndre Ayton, who's only played one game, and he's currently dealing with a 25-game suspension due to the diuretic that people are linking to PED use. And you mentioned the ball movement. You got Ricky Rubio with 8.1 assists per game, Booker with 5, Baines with 3.3, Kaminsky with 2.4, Javon Carter with 2.4, Saric with 2, so a lot of guys above 2 per game. Ricky, it's been impressive what they're doing so far, but do you think that they can keep this up throughout the entire season and possibly be a playoff team, or is this kind of like the Kings last year that they have something that is very good right now, but when teams start to see more of it, they'll be able to shut it down?
I need to see, like, this is one where I have been sitting here the whole time since we started, and I'm like, all right.
We all have.
Let me find the weakness in the armor. It is somewhere. Let me find it.
I've been trying to figure out about this mouse.
And the first thing I thought of was, oh, well, look at the opponents they've beaten. The Kings they've beaten haven't been that strong this year, especially that was game 1 of the year. Memphis isn't a very good team. Golden State, not a very good team this year. The Clippers and the 76ers are good. 76ers, I'll give them credit for because it's not like they had big injuries in that game. And the Clipper game, I'll give them credit for, too, because I thought Kawhi, was it a load management game? It was not. Kawhi was out there and scored 27. Here's the thing I need to see from the Suns before I say if they're real, they're legit, anything under the sun. What are they going to do? Literally, I didn't even think about that. What are they going to do against these teams on the road? Because so far, they're only road games. Denver, who, yes, it was a close overtime game, but they lost. Their other 2 road games have been Golden State and Memphis, who they should beat those teams, I'll say. Because without Curry, without Clay out there, the Warriors are weaker. Memphis is just they're a younger team, and because of that, I don't think they're going to take they're not going to be competitive this year, is how I should put it. I want to see what they do on the road when they get to a Minnesota, when they get to a Houston, when they get to these higher level teams, how are they performing? Because right now they're winning at home.
To help at least how I can say, the Golden State thing and Memphis thing, they should win those, but they did blow them out pretty much. Yeah. 11-point victory over Golden State, and then a 9-point victory over Memphis. But those games were pretty much handily won for Phoenix in both of those. And one thing that is pretty in favor, at least for the Suns, is their next 4 games are at home, and next 5 out of the 6 are at home as well. They do have Denver again on the road, and they do have Minnesota, like you said, but they won't have many road games in November. They have the Denver, Minnesota, and Sacramento ones. That's it. But they play Brooklyn, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Boston, New Orleans, and Washington, and Dallas all at home. So this is going to be a stretch that maybe they come out of it with double-digit wins by the end of November into December.
Well, and not even that. Like, I'm going even further. Like, you mentioned November, December, they have Charlotte, Orlando, New Orleans, and Houston. If they keep playing like they are right now, they can go 3-1 in that stretch, maybe even beat the Rockets, but I'll say 3-1. Their first actual tough road game, in my mind, is December 17th. That's a long way away when they go to L.A. to play Kawhi and the Clippers again.
Yeah, and on December 17th last year, they were 7-24. So could you imagine if this team has double-digit wins at that point last year? They didn't even get to 10 wins last year until January 8th. Yeah. So, if they hit double-digit wins this year, it's going to be a great turnaround by Monty Williams. And you see the impact that a Ricky Rubio would have on this team. I just wonder mainly how good is the depth pieces? Because I don't want to say Devin Booker's not a number one, because I want to see what he can do with a full season with great pieces around him, or at least good pieces around him. Because so far he's been able to prove that he's a great scorer.
Absolutely.
He's done that for the entire 4 years. Yep. But how is he going to do in crunch time? How is he going to do in bigger moments? How is he going to do in the road? How is he going to do in those games where he's going up against LeBron in the Staples Center? Will he be able to step it up and be able to handle that pressure? If he does, then that's going to be a great sign. And he's only 23, 24. Have him do that, I think you would probably be able to say that he could be a number one on a team, a guy that you can trust to late in the game to win you a game. I don't think he's had the ability to have those moments yet, so that's why I won't say he is a number one yet. But I think you do have the pieces for him to be a number one. He has everything in his arsenal to take that step into the upper echelon of superstardom. And then with that too, at some point they're going to get Ayton back. So through the first 26 games or 25, first 26 games of the season, and you're playing without your second best player, and he comes back and you have double-digit wins for a team that hasn't had that in a very long time, a great hot start. What is this team actually going to do at full strength? And that's the thing that's super impressive. The only thing is that might mean less minutes for Aaron Baines, and that might mean less minutes for Frank Kaminsky. Weird to say that, about that, comparing them to DeAndre Ayton, but those guys are playing tertiary roles, and they're doing it very well.
Yeah.
Is that what helping this team? Is that ball movement? Would Ayton possibly stop that?
I mean, there's a possibility. I was going to throw out even before you said that we think that adding Ayton would be a good thing, but there could be the possibility, playing devil's advocate, that you add him in, that causes things to change, and then it's like, oh, wait, we're not doing what we did when we won. And how do we, then Monty Williams would have to be the coach he is, pivot, okay, what are we going to do here? Because the second thing to go off of that I was even going to ask too is how much of this is on the players? How much of this is on the successes on Monty Williams? Because as Sean said at the beginning, Igor's not a bad coach. He just didn't have a point guard. Would the Suns have been this successful if just Ricky Rubio was on this team last year and it wasn't Monty Williams and it was Igor? To me, I'm trying to figure out what is actually the success of this team.
Well, I think a lot of it has to be tossed up to their front office at this point, which is hilarious because we love to shit on them. But James Jones and all the questionable moves that we've seen come through all start to add up when you look at this roster this season. Because what do? They moved away from young pieces who people are still holding on hope for developing talent. Like Dragon Bender, like Marquise Chris. I know he was gone a while ago, but Josh Jackson, all those high picks who did not kind of level out, did not perform to the expectations. They moved on from them, and they went and got tougher guys. They got Baines. They got someone who can be a big body, who can be an enforcer, who can play the low post well. Well, neither one of those guys we mentioned earlier could do that for them. So I think it was smart moves there, and then he goes out and he gets wing defenders. They made the midseason deal for Ariza to get out of town because he stopped trying. Picked up Kelly Oubre on basically the Wizards don't want to pay for him, so we'll take a shot at him. And then they went out, Mikal Bridges in the trade, great call. They picked up Cameron Johnson, one of the best 3-and-D players in college basketball last year. It's like all the little moves make sense, and then Ricky Rubio is kind of like the crowning piece of the he's a guy who makes other players better. There's not a lot out there who their own stats aren't stand out from the just looking at box score. You won't realize the impact that he has on the court, but the little things he does on the court for his team makes everyone's lives easier.
I mean, just look at the Jazz, how different they look with Mike Conley out there and not Ricky Rubio.
Especially the first couple games where Conley bricked everything.
Yeah.
But no, I think a lot of this is the way they built out the roster and added defense and toughness and moved on from young prospects who hadn't quite hit that level. I still have hope for Dragon Bender at some point to be something. Should I? Probably not. Marquise Chris has had moments, and then he's had awful. It's just Josh Jackson's a G Leaguer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Athletic, slashing wing, nah. Enjoy the G League kid. It's just interesting how they've made that transition. And those young pieces that they've added in Mikal and Cameron Johnson, I don't think those guys have hit their stride yet this season. I think their shooting's been incredibly inconsistent. And I know neither one of them is like a 19-year-old rookie, a 20-year-old rookie in the league. So I'm hoping that they're going to find their shots, and then this team gets even scarier. I think Ayton coming back is huge for this team because he adds a low post scoring presence that I think they can absolutely roll with, and it might be beneficial for him because Dario's been struggling a little bit as well. So I'd love to see quick kick in that court. I am going to slap you, kid. I thought that was a mouse for a second. I'm curious to see if they're going to run Baines and Ayton out there together if they're going up against some teams that have a legit center, because then you can flex one of them out to the 3-point line and kind of use that, because I know Ayton had always talked about earlier in his career was, I'm a 4. I should be out on the perimeter. I shouldn't be in the low post as much. And I'm curious if they can do that, because both of them can stretch out the floor.
And he is a guy, too, that I know. I remember last year, I know his defense isn't spectacular, but there was moments that last year his perimeter defense was something that shined.
He's got solid footwork.
It was against Giannis, really, and it wasn't against some slouch that he was doing it. It wasn't like he was going up against Jaylen Brown doing it, or at least 2018, 2019 Jaylen Brown, because 2019, 2020 Jaylen Brown's different. But he was going up against the MVP, and the MVP struggled against DeAndre Ayton when he was up against the perimeter. And it was a great showing from Ayton. So maybe if he is in that position, things could change. So maybe it does help them. I do just wonder offensively, would they then rely on him too much down low in the post? But in the first game they had him, they won. So it's not like you could bash it, and he had 18 and 11. And adding that type of rebounding and adding that type of physicality down low would help any team. This is a crazy start though for the Suns. Last time they, at least going back for the previous 6 years, the point where they reached double-digit wins, the earliest was November 26th. And they did start 5-3 at some point. That was their best start since. So 2014-2015 was their best start that they've had since. Or 5-3 is their best start since 2014-2015, where they went 5-3, and then they also got their 10th win in November 26th, and then they ended up going like nearly playoffs. They were like 4 games under 500. So is that a possibility for them? Just going 500 this year, is that a successful season for them? If we do see this start for them, but they don't make it to the playoffs, is it just good that you saw this much growth, at least from going from a cellar dweller up to at least close to playoff contention?
They were a perennial top pick in the draft. I mean, this is a team that we've been waiting for them to click, and it's Suns. Just like, come on.
I feel like Suns fans, and correct me if I'm wrong, most Suns fans will feel like if they do miss the playoffs, it'll be like, well, I would have liked to be in there, but hey, I'd rather be in the situation I am than picking at the top of the draft. I'm sorry, if it's me, expectations have now changed through these games. Let's make the playoffs, baby. Really? Even if it's at 8 seed, just because of what we've seen in the West right now, where it's like the Warriors are definitely not going to be a playoff team right now. You've got other teams that have not lived up so far, and I know it's early, to the expectations we all had. Why not just let's take our stranglehold right now?
Let me ask
what the Kings couldn't.
Let me ask this though: like, what do you mean though by that? Because I don't think anyone was expecting like, oh, hey, let's tank for the Suns. I don't think anyone was going in like, oh, this is just gonna be another tank year. I think it was, let's see what we got. Yeah. And so far, what we've gotten is very good.
The expectation, if I was a fan, the expectations would change. Like, if I was a Suns fan, I would come in with that same, like, you know what? Let's see what we got. I'm not expecting to make the playoffs, but let's just see what we have here.
Yeah.
Now that they're sitting here 5-3, and you've got the Kings don't look like what we expected them to be. The Warriors are not going to make the playoffs. I look at this, and if I'm the Suns and if I'm a Suns fan, I'm going, fuck it. Let's go for the playoffs. My expectations have now changed. I think this team should be in the playoffs. That would be where my mindset would be as a fan.
Sounds like
and how it would change. I mean, yeah, that's where it comes from. But I mean, that's what it would be, where it's like, hey, I've already seen now through 8 games what they could be. I want to make the playoffs now, and I think it would be a bad thing if they did what the Kings did. Because look at the Kings. Look at the Kings. If
they did what the Kings did, you mean fire their head coach,
no.
take a
like,
worse...
miss the playoffs. And I'm not saying that the Kings would have beat...
I don't think the Kings wanted to miss the playoffs.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, you look at what the Kings are now, where it's like they missed the playoffs. It's like you don't know if you're ever going to get that again. You don't know if you're going to get this play, because next year could be totally different.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting comparison to the Kings last year, where they were a pretty good team, and we saw the evolution of De'Aaron Fox going from he had just gotten off the ground his first year and really got his legs under him to, wow, this kid is an absolute stud and could be a future star here, and everything seemed to be clicking for them early in the year. late in the year they added on additional minutes to Marvin Bagley, and they really got some great production. But they also hit that mistake-prone young team era towards the end of the season where they couldn't close games. They reminded me of the Timberwolves from 2 years earlier. It's just that's how it works for young teams. And where I think this will be different is because the Suns aren't as young of a team as people would expect them to be, because they went out and added guys like Ricky Rubio, who is a veteran in this league.
Let me just add this to the Kings talk. They did go out and add last year. They did go out and get Harrison Barnes. They tried to add to this team to make it better throughout the run, and then they also went out and got Dedmon. They tried to make this team better.
This year,
so it was just something that they ran out of gas, and so far it looks like they've ran out of gas. Maybe they'll be able to pick it up and turn around the season, but I don't think the Kings were like, fuck it, let's be a shit team again.
Yeah.
I don't think that was their
With 12
idea.
games to go.
I think Suns fans, and this is just how I would take it if I was in a Suns fan shoes. I could be wrong. I know Alex, or our boy Alex Villanueva, will let us know what he thinks.
And Big Z.
But I think he will. I think if I was a Suns fan, I'm very happy that we're winning games. I'm happy that we're competitive. Yeah. If we don't make the playoffs, that's fine. If we make moves to try to make the playoffs, that's also fine, because it'd be better to be in the playoffs than not. But I'm not going to be heartbroken if we don't make it, because I don't think anyone had these expectations of making the playoffs this year. It's just a very good first start. Yeah. However, it could get into that territory of where you were with Hornacek. His first year was great, 48 and 34, and then it just turned to, downhill right away. They went under 500, and then obviously now they're in this mess. So I just think that Suns fans, I would be cautiously optimistic. Yeah. If your team keeps winning, great, celebrate them. That's awesome. I think it's a very good start, and it also seems to be very feasible. It doesn't seem like they're out in front of themselves. It doesn't feel like they're outplaying anybody. It doesn't feel like it's gimmicky that's going to stop. It's not like the Miami Dolphins Wildcat or anything like that. It's not extremely fast-paced like the Kings are going to do, that they're going to gas themselves. Yep. It's just very good basketball. Yep. They're playing mistake-free. They're hitting open shots. It's just a very good sign, and they've been able to beat very talented teams like the Sixers. They were close against the Nuggets. They had another one that was impressed me. I'm trying to think. I got to go back to the schedule.
To be fair, that Sixers win was no Joe. Just to toss it out there. That was still a Joel Embiid free game.
Yeah, but still beat them.
I understand.
The Clipper one. So you have wins over the Clippers. You have wins over the Sixers. I think bringing up the road situation is definitely important. But we've talked about this before with the Nuggets. This is the Nuggets team the year before last year. They were a team that dominated at home and then were horrible on the road. That could be the situation for this team as well. But I would say be cautiously optimistic on how this team has started so far, because it is feasible. You do have a very great scorer and possibly a number one guy in Devin Booker. You do have a very good number two in DeAndre Ayton, and you're going to have him pretty much fully rested coming back in the middle of the season. And that's going to be another thing that you're going to add to this team that teams really won't know how to play against for the first couple 5 games. That could surprise people if you add him in the right way. And Monty Williams is coming in with a veteran head coaching mindset that he knows that guys how to manage guys. This isn't his first coaching job. He isn't out in front of his skates. He knows how to manage these players and make sure that they're in the right mindset to win every single game. So I think this is a very promising start, just mainly because it is something that is attainable through 82 games. And I think if you're a Suns fan, you should be excited. I don't know if this is a championship caliber team. I don't know if they're building towards that, but you do have 2 very young, good pieces, and you have veterans around them that could help them make a playoff push. I don't think if they do win the championship in the next 5 years, that these are the pieces that are on this team, at least all of them. I don't know if Rubio's on this team or Aaron Baines or Kaminsky, but I think it's at least giving you a building ground of how to build around Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton.
They've added a lot of great wing depth, and I love that. I love the direction team's in, but I'm with you. It's a year of progress. I as a fan of watching young, talented basketball teams, and I think that's what we've really been doing. We were keyed up on the Kings a couple years ago. We were keyed up on the Timberwolves. We love Brooklyn's rebuild. It's one of the most exciting things in basketball. Outside of dynasties dominating, it's who's that next up and coming team? Who's putting together the right talent the right way? And it's awesome to see the Suns hit that progress point where it's like we're no longer at the bottom of the league. That's not our place anymore. We can win games, and we want to show Devin Booker that we're willing to make the moves to trade people, whatever it takes. let's get in the right side of this competition. And I'm glad they're doing it, because if they didn't, then we'd have to deal with is Devin Booker going to request a trade? He's getting the max contract, but now he wants out of town and all that shit. And I hate that, because Phoenix deserves to have a team there. They deserve to have a star there. And I hope they come close to the playoffs this year, if not make it. Either way, but it's just progress. Any sign of positive progress is a win for me.
I want to ask you, Ricky, this. And this is probably where we'll end it. Positive progress and not being overreactionary. I think people see this and they're like, oh, well, what if they add more stars? That's going to fix the situation. There's always the talk about Devin Booker and his relationship with Karl-Anthony Towns and their relationship with D'Angelo Russell. Do you think that bringing in one or both of those players would be helpful to this situation, or do you think ride out the scenario that you're currently in? Because you do have a very young DeAndre Ayton, a player who's younger than Karl-Anthony Towns. Definitely not the level that Karl-Anthony Towns is yet, but he is still extremely young. D'Angelo Russell, would he be a helpful player to add to this team, or could he possibly hurt the chemistry and the ball handling and the ball passing and the movement on this team? Talent is talent, and that's always going to win out in the NBA, but do you think that do you think it'd be overreactionary to go out and get one of those players? Obviously, it's going to be difficult to do so because Karl-Anthony Towns is, the centerpiece of the Timberwolves. But just for something that is probably in the mind of people in the Suns fan because of that slam cover, do you think that is something that should be, in their mind of, hey, let's go and try to do that? Don't pull up Trade Machine. Just
No, I'm not pulling up Trade Machine. I'm pulling up.
That's a Ricky move.
He wants to grab Cat's spot.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I think it's 5/190.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't make that trade only because that would, like what I said, were the Suns fans sitting at home thinking, man, what I've seen right now, my expectation is kind of like playoff, 8th seed. Going out and trading for Cat, giving up what you would have to give up to get him, then that would be way overreactionary. That's like, let's add some expectations to this team. Let's put the cart before the horse. And the Suns, I think, just need to ride out this year. Ride it out. You make the playoffs, great. You miss the playoffs, it's still like, as long as you're not a top 10 team in the NBA draft, I think it's a win for the Suns. And some people may say, well, Ricky, you're throwing a jab at Suns fans. But it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. I mean, the Bulls, we always hated being in draft lottery purgatory. Not even that. Remember before the 7 purgatory where it was like, we just missed the playoffs? Well, we're going to be the, 14th pick in the NBA draft, which does not help us. Like, for our team,
Denzel Valentine.
Exactly. For our team at that time, it was like, well, great. We're not getting the talent we need.
Now you got chances.
For a Suns team, you would be fine missing the playoffs and being that.
But
although
also,
I would be sitting here to the Suns fans going, yes, let's push for the playoffs. Let's do it.
Add one thing.
Yep.
Here's their history of picking in the lottery and picking top 10, like Ricky's saying. DeAndre Ayton, Josh Jackson, Dragon Bender, and then picking Marquise Chris. And the last time they were outside of the lottery, or outside of the top 10.
Oh, I know this one.
Devin Booker.
Yeah.
And then TJ Warren.
Yep.
So it worked out. And then also, then when you're back in the top 10, you picked Alex Len. So it's actually been better to be outside of the top 10 for the Suns, at least in history. I know obviously different GM and all that stuff, but they've been picking better players when outside of the top 10. So it might even be to their benefit if they're not picking in the top 10 because they might get a good player.
But also you have to deal with the new, lottery rules. So even if you finish, just outside, there's a chance you could get moved way up the
especially if the NBA likes you. Look at the Pelicans.
There you go.
I don't believe in the whole
I do.
rigged stuff.
I was going against it, and the Pelicans got the first pick last year. I was like,
I think they choose their years when they interact.
It's a little fishy.
What years have they chosen?
I think AD was one. I think that LeBron James post-Cleveland career.
The Bulls.
I think the Bulls, Derrick Rose won one.
We had the lowest odds to get it, and we got it to get Derrick Rose.
I think
that's come from Bulls fan.
I think it's, once every 4 years or so, whenever they need to interact, whenever they need to save a franchise, whenever they need to make sure that basketball still means something in that city.
Or their big markets don't dwindle away. Or nothing.
Anyways, I don't want to get
tinfoil
into
segment.
into tinfoil stuff like that. Let's see what point do you think that they'll get their 10th win, and we'll end it on that. So they got Brooklyn at home, Los Angeles at home, Atlanta at home, Boston at home, then they go to Sacramento, then they play against New Orleans, then 2 against Minnesota and Denver on the road, then Washington, and then Dallas at home.
I'm going to say by December 5th at the latest.
That's pretty deep.
That's at the latest.
That's 5 games, right? They
need 5 wins.
They need 5 wins.
The Lakers right now, I am terrified of what they've been doing to teams. So I don't know about that one. The Nets are beatable. The Hawks are beatable.
You think they'll go 5-8 in their next 13?
I don't know. I'm saying by the latest.
Okay.
I'm saying
what's the earliest?
That's my guarantee. Earliest, they could beat the Nets. They can beat the Hawks. They can beat the Kings, the Pels, and the Timberwolves. So like November 23rd.
Okay, Ricky.
I'm saying they will get their 10th win on December 2nd.
Okay, so you think it's going to take them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Same
10, 11.
games Dave just
11.
said, but minus
so
the T-Wolves go to the
6?
Hornets.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
they could beat the Wizards in the 27th, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll beat the Wizards. I think they'll beat the Timberwolves. I think they'll beat the Pelicans. I think they'll beat the Kings, and I think they'll beat the Hawks. So
yeah, that's the most likely.
We'll go by Wizards.
T-Wolves games on the road
27th.
though, so we'll see.
Yep.
I don't think they're bad on the road though, and I think Minnesota's too overhyped. I mean,
okay.
You have
Wiggins is going to town.
You have good wing defenders in
Wiggins
Oubre and Bridges, so that's probably going to slow down Chuck Machine Wiggins. And then you don't have to give an answer for Cat, but if he's going to score 50 points down the post, it's fine. That's true. He might rip his arm out. So
I say I want to watch Cat make that face again, like he was bouncing off a boogie.
yeah, I'd say not the
Kelly
earliest.
Olynyk.
I think the earliest is going to be November 19th if they sweep the next 5 games. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Technically the earliest.
I think it'll be November 27th.
I don't see them sweeping the next 5 games.
Anyways, do you think it's possible that this team will make the playoffs, yes or no?
Yes, 8 seed.
I think weirdly yes, and I as a Bulls fan I'm a little jealous because I always kind of put us on the same level. And you guys have a coach,
and I'm glad you brought that up.
And a point guard.
Thank you. It's the coach. The coaching thing is hiring Monty Williams was the best decision they ever made this offseason.
Yeah, well done.
I think it was bringing Ricky Rubio. Who are they fighting with for that 8th seed though? Because we think the Lakers are set.
The West is a fucking bloodbath out there because I'm waiting on the fact that
what other word were you going to use other than bath? Because you paused.
But
that's a blood bath.
But I think there is a tier, right? There's top tiers. So the Lakers, they're not missing the playoffs. Nuggets are not missing the playoffs. Clippers, they're not missing the playoffs.
Jazz aren't missing the
Spurs,
playoffs.
I don't think, even though the Spurs don't have a great record, I don't think they're missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I would say those teams are up there. What other teams do you think should be in that?
The problem is you're
who are they
staring
fighting
at so if you look right now, 7 is the Spurs, 8 is Suns, 9 Timberwolves,
8 is the
Thunder.
Mavericks.
8 is Mavericks.
On standings right now, I have right now 5 and 3 is Rockets,
Google
Suns,
got to fuck with
Spurs,
me then because
and
Google's got a
Mavericks
different.
and T-Wolves. So there's right now.
So on yours, just flip the Suns and the Mavs.
Yeah, right now there's
Delightful.
There's
Point
4
being-
or 5 teams that are 5 and 3.
I think everybody down to and including the Portland Trailblazers is still in this. I think it's 11 deep. I think.
You think
right now.
OKC's in this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, right now.
They have their roster intact. If they make a move, then no. But like right now, this team has talent on it. It's not like they're talentless fucking fools out there. Like Chris Paul's playing okay enough. Shea's been a star, and Danilo Gallinari. That thing that we all love about him is the fact that he shoots real well.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't hit that point of the season where he gets hurt yet. So of course, like they're doing well. Steven Adams playing well.
Yeah.
They got athleticism. Like they're not a bad team, and we talked about that. So Portland, once they get healthy.
So you think this team is top 11?
Dayton can keep dropping 60-point games. It doesn't matter. But like once they have bigs again, I think they're gonna make a huge late season push, getting back Nurkic and getting back Zach Collins. Like late season, that's gonna be a team on fire. So I don't think the West is safe. I think 11 through 6 is pretty open and
right,
gonna be pretty mobile.
Top 11, you think it's possible to make playoffs?
Absolutely. The Kings, I wish they could. I just don't believe in Luke Walton.
Ricky, and you're already saying that they are. Who's their competition you think is going to be fighting? Who do you think is going to separate themselves for the pack at least?
The first thing I do want to say is I do find it funny that we're asking this question when I threw out a topic earlier and Sean's like, it's too early to talk playoffs. But I will say...
But it's different for this team because this team didn't have expectations and they're exceeding expectations.
I'll
so
say
what
they're
Suns
fighting with
fans
the
right now are
T-Wolves.
asking are, can they make the playoffs?
They're
No one
fighting
cares
with
if the Celtics are going to make the playoffs.
No, with the T-Wolves is what I was looking at because that was one of the ones I threw out there. But I think it's like the T-Wolves and the Kings. I think the Kings are not dead in the water yet.
Okay.
They will turn it around. I think the Thunder will falter and they're not going to be in the playoff race later in the year.
Sorry about that.
I think I'll say it's between the Mavericks, T-Wolves, and Kings. Maybe the Spurs, depending on how their season goes. Like, that's what you're looking at, fighting for maybe 6 through 8 of those teams.
I would say that this team is definitely going to fight. I don't think they'll make it in. I think they'll be a below 500 team when it's all said and done. I think that they're going to have a really nice start. I think they're going to be a really fun team to follow in the first couple parts of the season, especially up into the new year, because they're going to have a lot of home games. So this is going to be a team that I think is going to inflate their record early. I mean, I think when you play so many road games later in the half of the season, I think it's just going to break down this team, and that's just natural for any team that's going to have a ton of travel. So I think that this is going to be a team that falters a little bit late. I think we'll definitely see the Jazz in there, the Clippers, Nuggets, Lakers, Spurs, and then, the Rockets are definitely a team that's going to put up a ton of points, but is their defense going to be good enough? I think I trust the Rockets more than I trust the Suns. And then it's coming down to the Mavericks and T-Wolves and Trailblazers bouncing back, and the Suns. I would just say that I trust Luka more than I trust Devin Booker. I trust
It's kind of funny.
Cat more than I trust
You got the duos. You
Devin
got
Booker, and then
come on.
I trust Dame more than Booker.
Yeah, Luka plus Kristaps Porzingis versus KD, not KD,
Cat and Wiggins.
Cat Wiggins versus the
Dame and
Suns.
CJ.
I don't know. Fuck Dame and fucking Nurkic. Nurkic is second best player on the team.
But he's not healthy right now. We don't
but
know what
he
he's
will
going to
be.
do with his
But he
broken
will be.
leg.
But it's all these duos.
Yeah.
It's the duos in the West. And Ayton will be back soon, so I love it. I mean, that's topic for different days. Which duos in the West? We know who's at the top right now because the Lakers are just smoking kids. But I'd like to get into that.
Personally, I think it's De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes. But let us know what you think about the Suns in the playoffs down in the comments below. It is only 8 games, but it's been a fun 8 games for this Phoenix Suns. So let us know what you think down in the comments below, and let us know if you saw the mice anywhere. Mouse. Is it mouse or mice?
It's a mouse.
It's a singular mouse.
Mouse.
Oh, mice is plural.
Yes.
I'm stupid. Let us know what you think about me being stupid in the comments down below.